on a Midwest College Football Podcast, joined as always by Clinton Boring. My name is Ryan Satkoviak. We are live for the last time, Clinton, in the 2024 season. We made it the official end of our first season as a podcast, sir. How does it feel? How are you doing?
My vocal cords are ready for a little break. I This has been the most stress we've put on them in any time in my life. I'm still basking in the Ohio State National Championship as I have returned to my normal garb tonight.
I hope you have runny
Also with
poops
my
tonight.
MAC champion Ohio Bobcats behind me, and soon to be Metropolitan champion Columbus Blue Jackets, and AL Central champion Cleveland Guardians. No, I'm good, man. It's good day at work. I feel like it's funny that I'm going to rehash like, "Hey, I had a meeting today and I didn't do much work," because we just did a pre-record episode and we time traveled back to December 23rd per Ryan. And
Yeah, rough week, man.
no, it's been a good day. How about you, Ryan?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. We're hanging in there. So for everyone, we're gonna again go through this spiel again. We just did a pre-recorded episode that will release into your podcast feed sometime in either late January or early February. We have not discussed how we want to release these yet, in what order. I'm sure we'll do that at some point. But our game plan as a show, this is, as I said, this is our last live show for the 2024 season. Which is kind of weird to say because it's almost in February. This is going to be our last live show for about a month here or so. So our plan for starting Monday, the 20, whatever Monday is.
Whatever the week of the combine is.
Well, no, I mean Monday the 20. So starting Monday the 27th. We're
Mhm.
only gonna have one show a week. It's gonna come out on Monday, and they're all
Oh,
pre-recorded
you meant
shows.
January.
Yeah, yeah, for Jan. So for the last episode, for the last week of January, the first 3 weeks of February, we're only gonna have one episode a week, and they're all gonna be pre-recorded episodes. So there's not gonna be any news breaks between now and then. It's not gonna be addressed in those shows because we will have recorded it beforehand. So the episode we did today was just kind of a what if game. It was kind of funny to listen to because I thought Clinton wanted to do what ifs for the 2024 season, and Clinton just did what ifs in college football history. So that'll be a fun listen. But it's just some kind of off the wall shows like that. Meant to be entertaining, meant to be fun, and also obviously the intention was to give you guys some content too, and also allowing us to kind of unwind, take a break. I can sleep a little bit more. Clinton can focus on his children a little bit more. Um, and then once we get through those four, so that week of the combine, like Clinton said, we'll start picking up the live shows again. Maybe twice a week,
I think
once a
we'll just
week.
do twice.
Yeah,
We'll see.
definitely not 3 times a week.
No.
Once a week or twice a week, we'll just kind of see where we're at. And that's going to take us into about when spring ball starts. So for those of you who have been with us from the get-go, starting back to last April, how we kind of started this show was we kind of went through these spring overview series with these teams. I don't know that we'll do it exactly the same this year. We'll eventually talk about that. But kind of digging into spring ball and just kind of, starting from the jump on the 2025 season at that point in time. So should be fun, will be fun. But definitely looking forward to having a bit of a break in the meantime.
Hey, folks, just to chime in here, we're back on the gram because somebody thought Instagram might be a dead zone all football season, and he decided to start posting clips again. And we've been pretty red hot then on the gram here recently. And I would love for all of you who, hopefully, the 70 of you who listen to this, please go and share the Travion Henderson Instagram post I have in our reels because we currently stand at 15.8 thousand views and like 270 likes. So help us get that thing over 20K because that would be pretty damn awesome. That is our most popular clip of all time on Instagram, and it is our most popular clip of all time on YouTube, which is, I believe it stands at 9. No, it's our second most popular. It's like 700. So get out there, follow us on the gram, follow us on Twitter, ITPCFB. Follow us on the YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode, ITPCFB. And of course, as Ryan always says, get out there, get on the podcast platforms, follow us, and give us a 5-star review. We'd greatly appreciate it. It helps us with our favorite line, grow the show. Grow the show.
I haven't actually looked to see if we have any reviews recently. Maybe I'll do that right now. But Clinton,
We got an extra 5-star on Spotify.
ooh, look at that. You got 22 shares on this video too, man. That's pretty good. Look at us.
Beastin'.
We're making moves in the world. So game plan for today. Hold on, let's see. What do we got here? Where are we at? No, that's episodes. We only got 7 ratings. We only have 7 ratings on iTunes, guys. If you listen to us on Apple, go out and give us a
Yeah,
rating.
you damn Apple people.
Preferably a
Android's
5-star.
better.
Oh, you're weird. So today we're just gonna kind of talk about spare thoughts if we had any from the national title game. I know we kind of rushed earlier this week's episode because I had hockey. Clinton graciously agreed to go on early, but then had to get off a little early to make sure again he could pay attention to his
I
children at
always get
night.
off early.
Poor Leah. Poor Leah.
Get off work early. What are you talking about?
Oh Jesus. So if we have any spare thoughts from that, we can kind of review it. I know we kind of rushed that a little bit. But just overall thoughts on the 12-team playoff in general. What?
You're gonna download this, and I'm gonna cut the clips. And when the AI generates one, it's gonna say Pizza King gets off early. I can see the header already.
That needs to go on the gram. That probably should
Oh
stay
my
off the
God.
gram. That
Then we will.
listen,
I'm telling
can
you,
hey,
our
okay.
first sponsorship is gonna be Pornhub. I
No,
told you.
listen. If you put that clip on, you got to figure out how to get that intro song playing. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh my God, they do have some good music. I think that's what's helped. I put some music and then drop the volume down behind us as we talk, and I think just it gets the people going.
Yeah, it's just good vibes only. But a little bit of news.
Speaking of not good vibes, the
Okay,
Notre Dame
listen.
Fighting Irish.
Okay, so we're gonna start with some news and notes, just because people on Twitter don't know anything, and it's kind of annoying. So, with the extended season, it extends the portal season for Ohio State Notre Dame players. I think it's 5 days after the end of the national championship game to jump into the portal.
Portal is Sunday. NFL declaration is Friday, I think.
Correct. Yes. So, if any Notre Dame or Ohio State players want to jump into the portal in this first window, this is their opportunity to do so. And a couple Notre Dame players have taken advantage, notably 3 players on the offensive line who have started games this year.
It's all burning down.
It's all burning down. Oh my God.
Irish are failing.
Close down the program. No one wants to play there
What
anymore.
an idiot.
Yo, he died hang gliding. What an idiot. Left guard Sam Pendleton, center Pat Coogan, and right guard Rocco Spindler have all entered the program, and that's led to the natural course of, oh my gosh, what's going on in Notre Dame? I thought people loved playing for Marcus Freeman. Why is this happening?
He's
Why
an
are starters
asshole.
leaving? He must be a dick. No, it was all these 3 players who left. They also, I think, right guard Ty. I don't even know what position he plays anymore. He's been so irrelevant. Some offensive lineman Ty Chan also is in the portal, and then wide receivers Jaden Thomas and Deion Colsey are in the portal as well. None of these players who entered the portal have been a shock to me, Clinton, because let's rewind to Texas A&M on August 30th, 31st, whenever it was. Rocco Spindler was not in the starting lineup. Pat Coogan was not in the starting lineup. Sam Pendleton was in the starting lineup. He was in the starting lineup for, I think, the first half of the season. And then he got benched when Billy Schrauth became healthy again. So game 3 of the season is when things start to hit a crescendo point for Notre Dame. Starting center Ashton Craig tore his ACL. That's when Pat Coogan came in. And he played really well. Like, I think Coogan's really the only one that I'm truly bummed about, just because with Craig's recovery from ACL, he will be, I think, like 11 months when they open the season. It was announced today, too, that Sunday of Labor Day weekend at Miami, the 7:30 game. He'll only be 11 months recovered from ACL at that point. And for an offensive lineman, it's not as big of a deal because he doesn't need to be as explosive, I guess would be the right word. Like, Mitch Evans did not look good with his ACL this year, but the positional responsibility.
Yeah, you look pretty good in the Natty.
Well, yes, but then we finally got, we're now like 15, 16 months post-op.
He's going to look damn good in Bengal stripes, too.
He could be, man. He's going to be, he's the guy. That's, okay, we'll save it for the draft because that's a side tangent. Anyway, I would have liked Coogan to stay just because there's a chance he could have started at center this year depending on Craig's health, but when Craig is healthy, he was going to be the starting center. It was not going to be Coogan. So Coogan and Spindler started all of 2023 as well. And they didn't start the season as starters this year. They got beat out by younger players. So Notre Dame's offensive line projected this year, it was supposed to be Jagusa at left tackle. It ended up being Anthony Knapp at left tackle. Then you had Pendleton at left guard. You had Craig at center. You had Billy Schrauth at right guard. And then you had Amal Wagner at right tackle. So Coogan nor Schrauth were in the opening day starting lineup despite starting most of the previous season. They got beaten out by younger guys. And they both played admirably well heading into like in the roles that they were thrust into. And I mean, I don't know that Spindler's played so well in so then Craig injured it tore his ACL against Purdue, and in that same game, Schrouth got rolled up on, had a high ankle sprain, and he missed like 6 weeks. And they kind of rushed him back because Spindler came in and replaced him, but Pendleton wasn't playing well. And it's not that Spindler was playing fantastically, but he was playing better than Pendleton was. So when Schrouth came back, he replaced Pendleton in the starting lineup. So Pendleton leaves. He had gotten passed over. Now you have both of these guys who are going to be fifth years next year. It's their last year. You can bet that they wanted some sort of assurances on playing time because it's going to be your last year in college. You don't have the COVID year. You can't you don't have that sixth year to fall back on. Like this is it for them. So Notre Dame's having exit interviews this week, and the word is that essentially these guys were told, like, look, thank you for what you did this year, but if you're looking for assurances from us, we can't give it to you. So they're going to go to a place where they can play, and I don't blame them at all for that because if Craig is healthy, he's going to be the starting center, and it sounds like at right guard, it's either going to be Jagielsa moving back inside or they're going to move Anthony Knapp, who started all season at left tackle inside. So there's just not spaces for him. And Notre Dame's not hurting for offensive linemen. I mean, we saw Amo Wagner played fantastic at right tackle this year. They have a freshman left tackle on the roster this year that everyone expects is going to be fantastic. And it sounds like in practices that he's probably the most physically gifted of the linemen on the roster. They got another 5-star offensive tackle coming in next year. So either Jagielsa or Knapp are going to have to move inside. There's some thought that if Craig still isn't ready to start the year at center, that Knapp can be the starting center. So they have some positional flexibility, and all it is fifth-year guys who want to play next year. They want assurances that they're going to play. They've gotten their Notre Dame degrees. They have nothing left to accomplish on this team. So it is what it is.
Well, Ryan, let's now get to the other dumpster fire that's going on with the Irish. You guys no longer have a defensive coordinator as Al Golden was coming home. I'm coming home. Tell the world that I'm coming home. He still had his house in the great city, the Queen City, Cincinnati. He will be rejoining my Cincinnati Bengals to hopefully turn around, not turn down. Hopefully he turns down for what? Turn around one of the worst NFL defenses this year. So, Ryan, my question to you is, give me a quick synopsis or quick word on the Notre Dame defensive coordinator hunt.
That's a really good question because I
vote for Mickens.
That's kind of where I'm at with it too. Is I don't know if, and there's a lot of people who, and I've had this. I don't remember what the term I've used for it, but it's like the people on the message board who've demonstrated that they're close to the program or know someone within the program, but they're not like technically insiders. And you tend to get more unfiltered thoughts from them because they're not trying to protect sources or anything like that. But there's been this, I don't know if it's like a push-pull, but a lot of those people are saying there's a lot of momentum for Mickens to potentially be elevated. But then on two different podcasts last week, Pete Sampson, the Notre Dame writer for The Athletic, has like gone out of his way to say he has at least one or two sources who don't think that Mickens would get elevated. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do. And it's going to be a fascinating decision for Marcus Freeman because it seems like your choices at this point are you either promote Mike Mickens to defensive coordinator and then you hire so he's their defensive backs coach because he assumed that responsibility last offseason when Chris O'Leary left. He was previously cornerbacks coach. Chris O'Leary was their safeties coach. He joined Jim Harbaugh's staff in Los Angeles. They just gave him the full DBs coach title. So you can't be a full DBs coach and a defensive coordinator. So the reason they did that is because they wanted to hire Max Bula, the guy who replaced James Laurinaitis as their linebackers GA. They wanted to hire him to a full-time assistant because it sounded like Bill O'Brien was going to try to poach him for his BC staff. So now you promote Mike Mickens to DC, maybe put him back to cornerbacks coach, and now you hire a dedicated safeties coach to replace, I guess, Al Golden, or at least replace that on-field coaching role. But also, if you want to go the more experienced route, you run the risk of running off Mike Mickens because he's been at Notre Dame for 5 years. He's a rising superstar in this profession. He's one of the best position coaches in all of football. I would argue he's to Notre Dame's defensive backfield as Brian Hartline is to Ohio State's wide receiver room. Maybe not at the same, definitely not at the same level yet, just because he doesn't have the first round talent to back him up. But Cam Hart had a really good first year in the NFL. Ben Morrison's going to potentially be a first round pick next year, if
Did he
not a
declare?
second round. He declared today as well. He helped elevate Xavier Watts' game this year. He's going to be, a late day one, early day two pick. So he's going to start to
Going to the
develop.
Bengals, sticking with Al Golden.
I think that would be a fantastic addition for that defensive backfield because he already knows that system. But he's a guy who's a rising star in the game. And I mean, it sounds like at this point he wants to be a defensive coordinator. And if it doesn't happen for him this go around at ND after being on that staff for 5 years, learning under Al Golden for the last 3, you have to think he's going to start to wonder, is it ever going to happen here for me? So maybe he starts to look for his next move. Maybe he takes a defensive coordinator job elsewhere. Maybe he takes a position coach role in the NFL.
Come to the Bengals.
That would be a guy that you would hate to lose because he's a bulldog of a recruiter. He has done a great job at identifying guys. I mean, I don't think most people remember that Ben Morrison was a low 4-star, and he came in and started right away as a true freshman. Leonard Moore was a 3-star. He was the defensive freshman of the year this year in college football. So he's got an eye for talent. He's got a really good developmental streak. So that's kind of one of those. Do you ride with the inexperience, but a guy who knows that system already and can keep the terminology and the consistency there? Or do you go with someone who is more experienced and has the play calling experience to go with it? So fascinated to see how that plays out, but I'm with you. Mike Mickens is also my vote.
So, Ryan, you talked about as we came into this episode of kind of wrapping up our thoughts for the national championship season. My last 2 thoughts are going to be, as I have them labeled in my notes, Clinton rants. So, Ryan, why don't we go back to 1996, the infamous song by DJ Cool, Let Me Clear My Throat. I'm going to get started. Number 1 on my rant list, ESPN the other day, Tuesday morning, fresh off a nice national championship game that all of us Midwesterners enjoyed. Here's Mike Greenberg sitting on the screen with a picture of 2019 LSU. ESPN bringing up about how dominant 2019 LSU was and comparing their championship to the recent Ohio State one and making an indirect point that this LSU team would beat the crap out of this Ohio State team. I don't care. It was 5 years ago. Nobody gives a shit. ESPN is crying because the SEC hasn't won crap in 2 years. They're still mad because the Big Ten took their media deal elsewhere to Fox, NBC, and CBS. And the SEC and the ESPN are just walking hand in hand, thinking they're the preeminent conference. Newsflash, buddies. The past 2 years belong to the Big Ten. National champions, Big Ten. We may not be as deep as the SEC, but damn, we are top heavy. We are just the tip, and sometimes just the tip gets it done. So that was rant number 1. I saw no purpose in bringing up, why don't we go back and compare Cam Newton's national championship team and say how they might beat Ohio State's team, or why didn't you say the 2020 Alabama team? Like, I don't know. Like, what was the point in randomly bringing up 2019 LSU and to discuss how dominant they were and how they beat this Ohio State team? It's just ESPN is notorious, Ryan. I don't know how much you see them, but we have them on at work every day. They like to generate their own questions that they then talk about on the show that no one else cares about.
No, it's the general media. I don't remember if I tweeted this from my account, my personal account, or our account at some point. But it's the ESPN playbook is personality A says something bombastic that creates an artificial storyline because everyone's like, can you believe what this dumbass just said? Then personality B on different talk show talks about personality A's bombastic comment on the talk show, which then fires up personality A to respond. And it's just like this artificially created news cycle. Mm-hmm. And it was, I don't remember what, it was something real dumb too. And I was fired up about
Probably something to do with the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't think it was the Dallas Cowboys
or LeBron
in college.
Or the Yankees or the Dodgers.
So here's a little news for you. I don't know if it's news, but another name mentioned potentially for Notre Dame and Penn State is Indiana DC Bryant Haynes.
Okay.
Apparently, though, he has resisted leaving Indiana.
He's Signetti's boy, man. Mm-hmm. Signetti's boy. He didn't want to go.
Do we want to talk briefly about what's going on with Jim Knowles? Because
not yet, Ryan. I've got my second rant out.
Okay, so you got some
Damn
ratings.
it.
I'm sorry. So there was a tweet. I just saw a tweet from Football Scoop. It was hold on, let me read it. Fascinating situation playing out with Jim Knowles. Was told this morning that we might have resolution this afternoon. Now, maybe, well, we'll see. It's complicated.
Listen, guys.
Is this your second rant? Did we
No, it is not. My second one's about Kirk Herbstreit, the Knowles
Okay.
thing. I
Okay.
think the big thing with Knowles, one, you win a national championship, everybody wants your pieces. It happens. How many did Nick Saban leave or lose after national championships? Jim Knowles is very well compensated at Ohio State. He has 2 years left on his deal, plus a buyout. So whoever wants him, you're going to get in a bidding war with Ohio State because Ohio State doesn't want to lose him. So Ohio State is probably going to overoffer whatever you put on that table. Oklahoma is notorious for not wanting to pay staff members very well. That's why people leave. Are they going to come in and do a buyout and pay Jim Knowles, make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football? Probably not.
Who
Penn
did
State, on the other hand,
I
may.
see. I think Oklahoma is desperate enough to do something dumb like that at this point.
They may. They may. If I was Knowles, though, why would you go there if Penn State wants you?
That's true.
I'd rather go to Penn State.
I would rather go to Penn State. I think you have
However,
better raw material and you have a better chance to win next year.
Ohio State has already proven Penn State's not going to outbid them. Ohio State's not letting Jim Knowles walk. I mean, there's a number for everyone, right? That Ohio State won't go above.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that number's about $5 million. You're going to have to come in over $5 million to get Knowles out of here. Because I think he's making 2.5 right now.
I don't know, man. I don't, because every school has every coach has their contract negotiated assistance pool, and unless they have the fund, I mean, they have the funds in the athletic department, but that's not as easy as just saying we'll match whatever. There's certain
Ross
red
Bjork
tapes
paid Jimbo Fisher money and never done anything.
Okay, but that was because people gave him the money to do so.
I don't think Knowles is going to leave. I think this is an agent ploy. Not to say that these rumors aren't true, but he's using as his benefit to get Knowles paid more money, which he deserves. They were the best defense in the country, and they've been a top 3 defense for the past 3 years, even with some of the explosive plays they've given up. The man deserves his money. Pay him, and let's keep growing on the defense.
We'll see. I think the other side of that, too, is 3 years is an eternity for a coordinator to stay at one spot, and he's seeing everything that he's losing from this defense, and he might feel like, one, I want a new challenge, and also, two, maybe I don't want the challenge of having to rebuild this here because everyone knows what we just did. And Ohio State fans are not exactly the most reasonable people who will be happy.
Played a ton of depth this year, Ryan. So these guys that are coming in next year, they're not like they haven't played. They had a ton of snaps this year. So he's not restarting as much as people think. All right, let me get my last rant out, and then we can move on to this 12-team playoff assessment. No pun intended here. People dogging Kirk Herbstreit, saying he shouldn't be calling the national championship because he is so biased to Ohio State, and he doesn't call it both ways. Said because he was emotional after the game, that it shows his bias, and he shouldn't be allowed to call any more Ohio State games moving forward. Guys, he is an alumni. If the game is over, the guy is very close to Ryan Day. His son was on this team. Ryan Day was a piece of the coaching staff that got, I believe it was maybe Chase, his son Chase, or his son, if it's not the right name, the medical help that he needed, because I think his son had something pretty severe that happened, and the staff got them to where he needed to be. They're very close. He's a human, too. Yes, he's a national broadcaster, and if anything, what has recent Ohio State fans been about with Herbstreit? They hate him because they feel like he never goes to bat for his team. Mm-hmm. So now Ohio State fans and other people want to dog the poor guy for crying because he's happy for his friend Ryan Day and his alma mater winning a national championship. Can we just give the guy a break and let him enjoy Ohio State winning a national championship? I get it. Herbie's comments in and throughout the season and in and out of the playoffs, people have been all over his ass this year. It probably more than they ever have been. And even you brought up Kirk Herbstreit's comments at one point.
He kind of, I think the one
he does it to himself.
He brought it on himself, but I think he got a little bit unfairly dogged when he went on Andy and Ari, and I thought he did a pretty good job of explaining his thought process. Mm-hmm. I didn't necessarily agree with everything he said, but I could kind of see the point of view, and it's just people want to be mad about something. Yeah. And I think the litmus test for this is Desmond Howard is pretty unabashedly
God.
like pro Michigan. And I mean, you'll go
Homer.
like if you go on like I don't watch the Fox one because I just don't think like I like Brady Quinn. I just don't care about the other people on that show. I think they're all kind of insufferable. But like the litmus test for this would be if you dog on Desmond Howard for what he does regarding Michigan, then I guess you can dog on Kirk Herbstreit too. But if you're like fine with what Desmond does, leave Kirk alone. It's fine. Who
I don't know.
cares?
It's just, can a guy celebrate his alma mater winning a national championship? He wasn't even celebrating. Can he be happy for them? That's the word I'm
Like
looking
you
at.
can be
He
happy.
can be happy for them. It's not like he's jumping up and down. Oh, Ohio State beat Notre Dame. You guys suck. Like, he's just
Don't tell
happy
Notre
for his
Dame
team.
fans that, Clinton. Notre Dame fans are convinced that Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit hate Notre Dame.
Yeah, I've read those tweets too. Like,
It's
good Lord.
speaking of a
Chris
lunatic
Fowler and
fringe,
Kirk Herbstreit are the two best college football analysts in the
I
game,
no, I
in
don't.
my opinion.
I don't like. I don't think Chris Fowler's. Chris
I
Fowler's a
love
guy.
Fowler.
He has a good voice. His calls are not great. Like he misses some stuff.
I don't know. I like the duo. They make a
He
good duo.
does. He's
They don't have
like.
to be perfect as long as they do well together.
I think the thing, like they have good chemistry together. I think the problem with both of them is they do too much. They are spread too thin, and it doesn't allow them to be that great at anything.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
I
Herb
think
Street
there
took
was
on
the
the
story.
Amazon Prime thing with the
Herb Street's
NFL.
been notably like more. I don't know if insufferable is the right word. He's been notably crankier since taking that on. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you're doing way too much right now, and it's affecting your overall product.
Right.
And it's this.
It's
Well,
money,
sure, they
bro.
don't. Well, they don't give a shit what they're. I'm sure that's not true. They, as long as they're making money, I'm sure that they're like, whatever, we'll deal with the tiredness, and if we don't sound as good to you, that's your problem, not ours. But like it's the same thing with Fowler. Like a lot of the talk after, like before the game was like, this guy's getting on a plane and flying to Australia for the Australian Open tennis match after this. It's like, why are we celebrating this? Like, homie, go get some rest.
Also, where do you get time with your family? I don't know if Fowler has kids. I'm pretty sure he's married.
I don't know. I have no idea.
He does do a great job calling tennis. I don't know if you watch much tennis, but he is. I enjoy him calling Wimbledon.
I think he's. I don't watch tennis. I've heard calls of him on tennis, and I've seen him on the studio shows on tennis because again, ESPN's on in the clinic, and I think he does fine there. It's just,
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know.
So those are
Anyway,
my two rants. I just like give Herb Street a break. And why is ESPN bringing up a 2019 SEC national champion? Because they haven't had one in 3 years.
Well, no, that's ESPN's thing is we have to create debate because this is
just-
what people want to listen to. It's not. I
just
don't want to listen to it.
asinine.
I don't want to listen to that
Like
debate.
Mike Greenberg works for ESPN, but is a diehard Northwestern. That probably pained that man inside to bring that up about the SEC because he's a Big Ten guy.
I think
and
my favorite was like people being like, "Would this year's Ohio State team beat last year's Michigan team?" I'm like, they couldn't even beat this year's Michigan team.
They couldn't, but if we call different plays, you can't go back and fix it. But we all know
And if
Ohio
I had
State-
wheels, Clinton, I'd be a bicycle.
If my aunt had nuts, then she'd be my uncle. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Ryan, do you have anything else to wrap up your 2024 Natty? Or I'm ready to get to this assessment here.
Yeah, no, I think we did a decent enough job talking about the game itself. I think we can move on to.
So off the top, I just real quick, yes or no, was it a success or not a success?
100%, it was a success, an unequivocal success, and I am not really willing to entertain arguments otherwise. Like, if you want to argue that it lasted too long and there was too much space between the rounds, like I think the 9 days was a little ridiculous between each round, and you probably, I don't know if you could have started it a week earlier given like travel logistics and where like teams were in the academic calendar, because you got to remember, like that's a thing too. Like a lot of those first round games were coming around finals week for these guys, but I don't.
Let's be real, Ryan. They're not here to play school.
Well, that's fair, but I don't think we can continue long term having this national championship go as late as it does.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Because
we need
it
to bump
just-
it back a little bit.
This feels
Bump
like
it forward.
Forward. Yeah, forward. It feels way too much like a marathon. Like the time between games, it just feels so long, and it's like spring practice is in 6 weeks. And I don't remember what, I think it was, I don't remember what podcast I was listening to, but they're like, look at Iowa, for example. Perfectly great season. Their regular season has been over for almost 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
They've been moved on to 2025 for 2 months, and for Notre Dame and Ohio State, it just ended. That's
Here's the other thing.
absurd.
Here's the piece. Now, college different because guys go to the draft and guys graduate. But if you're a team that's bringing a fair amount back, like a certain Penn State, and you played all but until the last week of the season, you're getting a pretty damn short break to then come around and turn back to the next season. So that's the other thing. Like, you run into that in the NFL with teams that make the Super Bowl is like you played until the middle of February, and now you got to be back in May.
Yeah.
When teams who didn't make the playoffs were done at the first week of January.
Yeah. Well, freaking
Now,
too,
those
like,
teams usually suck, so...
Yeah. But, like, the poor coaching staffs, too, man. Like, Notre Dame just lost a national championship. They're hosting a junior day on Saturday. That's crazy.
I agree. I think I liked it. I think it's a success. What I liked about it was it made those bowl games... now I'm getting to what I liked. So, real quick, success... I think we need to change the schedule a little bit. I'm open to even starting the season a week earlier.
Agreed.
Making week 0 actual week 1 and then just pissing off
Go
with
from there.
week 0.
Go from there.
And then I know Joel Klatt has this whole idea of ending it on January 1st with the Rose Bowl. I haven't really listened to how he ties that in. That part of it was starting the week earlier, but I still don't know how you get that done by then when we just ended it this week at the end of January. Where are you getting 2 more weeks?
Unless you're like cutting a week or 2 off the regular season, then
so
and doing like,
and I don't
10
really want
early
to do
games.
that.
No,
I mean, I guess they're not going to sever the conference championship games until they absolutely have to, because they make money. All those asses that sat in seats in Indy, they're not losing that. They're not going to lose that money.
No, and I think like, especially since they're talking about expanding to 14, you're going to add another round. You're going to
Maybe
have
16,
to cut,
Ryan.
You're going to have to cut something off.
Remember,
man.
this is on. It may not be 14. It might go right to 16.
You're going to have to cut something off on the front end to make that work, because you can't go that late again. That's patently absurd.
So, what are some things you liked about the 12-team playoff, Ryan?
Well, it did, and I think like this got way overblown, and I think it'll be less overblown moving forward now that we have some data on this. Like the consternation, maybe this is something that I didn't like. I guess it's going to be something that I didn't like turning into something that I liked. I didn't like the consternation about the quote-unquote blowouts in the first-round games, because like that's going to happen. Look at the freaking NFL playoffs, man. The wild card round sucked this year. That happens every year.
Yep.
In every sport. Your first round is not great because you have elite teams playing just fine teams.
See the NBA playoffs.
The NBA playoffs.
The one seed usually annihilates the last seed.
And maybe Major League Baseball is a little bit different just because not as many teams make the playoffs.
A lot more strategical, too.
Yes. But like the NHL playoffs, too. That's usually...
Yeah, like the Jackets 4-0 the legendary Tampa Bay Lightning.
Maybe that's not the best the best example either, just because like if you're a crappy team and you slow a game down, you can win more in hockey than anything. But NFL playoffs, we'll leave it at that. Like it's usually the better teams beating the crap out of your NFC South champion that went 8-9 or something like that. So I didn't like the consternation about that, but what I liked is we got the opportunity in those early round games to parse out who the pretenders were and let the contenders advance to that quarterfinals, and we got a lot better games out of that. I know Ohio State, Oregon was a blow-up. We got a classic in Arizona State, Texas. Even though that Boise State, Penn State game ended up being, 17 points, I thought that was a fairly entertaining game for most of it. Boise State hung in there pretty well with Penn State. And Notre Dame, Georgia was a really good game, too.
Yep.
I know it wasn't high scoring or anything like that, but it was a game that was maybe not in doubt the entire second half, but Georgia was close enough that if they broke a play, then, okay, all of a sudden it's a one-score game.
Yep. And in a world that is college football and NFL that's dominated by offense, it's okay to have a defensive matchup sometimes.
Absolutely. And then look at let's keep it going round by round here, Clinton. Let's go to the semifinals. We got 2 games that came down to more or less the last 2 minutes. You had the game-winning field goal for Notre Dame with 10 seconds left. You had Texas with a 1st and goal at the 2-yard line at the 2-minute warning, or near the 2-minute warning, with a chance to tie the game before the strip sack, creating moments like that. We got 2 like NFL films worthy moments out of those games to win them. The Jack Sawyer strip sack return for a touchdown, and the Mitch Jeter game-winning field goal. And then let's go to the finals,
Scoop
Clinton.
and Sawyer.
Let's go to the finals. This was the closest national championship game by score since the 2017-18 season. I know the Alabama-Georgia game in 21, it was close, and it was a one-score game until that late pick six by Georgia. But from a score perspective, this is the closest game since that overtime game in 2017. I know that we got to a point midway through where it looked like it was going to be Bama Notre Dame 2012, but Notre Dame fought back, and there's 3 minutes left in that game. They had a 3rd and 11 down by a score, a chance to get off the field and get the ball back to drive for a tie. That's all you can ask for, man. Like, we had 2 great semifinals games, and we had a national championship game that was in doubt until the end. Maybe not like in doubt, but like there was still drama
There was
surrounding it
questioning.
until the
There
end.
was puckering.
There was drama surrounding it until the end. And we haven't always had that. Like, that's been the thing with this playoff format that people have whined, or the previous format that people whined about. Why are we getting these semifinal games that aren't close? Oh, man, we had a blowout in the national title game. How did this happen? It happens in this sport, man. They're 21-year-old kids. They don't always play to the same level week after week.
Got a million different things going on in their head, especially now. Oh, man, am I going to transfer? I've got Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, and Tennessee breathing down my throat trying to give me $4 million a year. Should I transfer and go somewhere else? Like, oh, this is tampering. Am I even allowed to respond to this? Oh, my girlfriend just broke up with me. She slept with my teammate. Like, these kids have so many different things going on in their heads. Like, they're not, well, they are paid players now, but they're not adults, essentially. They're not in the real world. They're still protected by their coaches. It's not the NFL.
Remember what you were at 20, Clinton.
Just remember. Absolute savage.
Exactly. You're not capable of living this life. I
wasn't chicks home 5 nights a week. Just slaying. I'm kidding. I was reading books and studying like the nerd that I was.
Passing out on street corners in Bowling Green, Ohio, drinking 32-ounce Long Islands from Tubby's. You think I was capable of doing anything like this? Not a chance in hell. So it's just like, I know we got stinkers early, but the games got better as the playoff progressed, and that's exactly what you want from a format like this.
Yep.
I loved that. I thought that was amazing.
Certainly. Things I liked. I enjoyed the more meaningful bowl matchups, being that I didn't have to deal with an early December of a bunch of games that didn't matter. Now, I know some of those bowl games still occurred, but I got to watch a home Ohio State playoff game, and it means something. I got to watch all the other games. I mean, I couldn't turn them off, even though some of them were blowouts. Even the Notre Dame-Indiana game, like, I'm still locked in and tuned in. One, because it was something new, but just more meaningful football. Who's turning that down? If you guys want to watch more Cheez-It Bowls, at some year, I think we need to make the Pop-Tart Bowl the national championship. I said
100%. 100%.
Absolutely. Let's do it. It also provided us with some new matchups, or matchups that we haven't seen in a long time. What did we say? 1996 Citrus Bowl, Ohio State, Tennessee? Is that what that was?
I think so.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, hardly play ever. Penn State, Notre Dame, when was the last time that happened?
2007.
Yeah. Texas, Arizona State. Well, Texas hasn't been in the Big 12. Oh, well, Arizona State was Pac-12, so that was a rarity. What else did we have? Texas, Clemson. We had Penn State, Boise State. The last time Boise State was in a game this big, they Statue of Liberty. Was that Kellen Moore, Boise?
No, that was Jared Zabransky.
There he goes, Jared Zabransky. Okay. Indiana, Notre Dame. We never get to see that game in their same damn state. Notre Dame, Georgia. Like, awesome. Look at all these new matchups, or matchups you rarely get to see, and they meant something. If Notre Dame and Georgia, let's say they didn't make the Final Four, and it's not that they wouldn't have, but this is randomly off my head, are playing in the whatever bowl, and it's not in the playoff, people don't give a shit.
Because no one's playing in the game.
Yes, half of Georgia's roster and half of Notre Dame's would have pieced out, and then it's a meaningless bowl game. It's not meaningless from the standpoint of new guys getting reps, and coaches are obviously selling it as getting ready for next year. But new matchups, I love that. And then the fan engagement. You got more fan bases involved. Get stronger engagement all season long because your team still has a chance. If you lose that second game, week 5, most years you're done. right? Until last year when they put Bama in as the only 2-loss ever to make it, your season's over. You might still play for your conference championship if you play in the poo-poo Big 12 or ACC, but your season's over. You've still got life. And what this more fan base and more engagement and more meaningful football does is it helps other programs. This is one point I do agree with Joel Klatt on, as he talked about you're getting these other teams involved now. Even if you lose in the first round of the playoff, you can pitch, hey, look, to a recruit. We got NIL for you. We just made the playoffs. We're bringing back these teams. Come join us. Let's build something here. And so maybe we're going to get a little more variety. They say variety is the spice of life. So who knows? Maybe Ohio State, Notre Dame, it's a hangover effect into the next year, and maybe neither one of them make the playoff. Maybe both of them get eliminated in the first round. I mean, it should be stacked rosters again, but I enjoyed seeing Arizona State in this. I enjoyed seeing Boise. I'm not going to lie. I'm not hating on Clemson. I did not enjoy watching Clemson backdoor themselves into it. Like, that was annoying. But I enjoyed SMU. Even though SMU got demolished in the freezing cold, it was fun to see new teams and new matchups. And certainly we're going to get to the things we didn't like here soon, but there are things they can change. But overall, great success.
I just like to, one more for me is the compelling matchups that it created in November that otherwise wouldn't have mattered. Like, people talked heading into this era that, like, well, this is going to devalue the regular season, and kind of the thing that you mentioned is it's nice that your season isn't over on one loss. And I think there's some people who enjoy that aspect of college football in the past, where it's like, well, if you lose, you have to be at your best or you lose, and you don't get a chance to play. Like, no other sport works that way. That's a ridiculous way to determine a champion. Like, no one would have cared about look at Miami, Georgia Tech this year. No one would have cared about that game last year. That had massive playoff implications because Miami lost. You still get games like that. You still have the Schadenfreude aspect. If you lose to your rival, you lose to a crappy team, people are laughing at you. Notre Dame made the national title game, and people are still being like, well, they lost to NIU. Guess what? I don't give a fuck. Doesn't matter to me, but you can still say it. If it gives you a little enjoyment, good for you. People are going to say to you, Clinton, well, you guys lost to Michigan. You know what your response is going to be? I don't give a fuck. We won the national championship. Sure, maybe it makes Michigan fans feel a little bit better on themselves on the inside, but Ohio State fans don't care. You still have the Schadenfreude aspect. It's just, now people don't have to listen to you when you say it.
The biggest worry was what? That the regular season would mean less.
It didn't.
That's it. We're not the NFL putting teams in the playoff 8 and 9.
No.
You're still not going to get in a 12-team format. And in a rare year, if you have more than 2 losses. We showed that this year.
And guess what, Clinton? We didn't have an at-large 9-3 team. I was right.
Yes. And Ryan, funny fact, Oregon is the only team who finished the season undefeated and is the only team who finished the overall season with 1 loss.
That's so funny. Hang
Pretty
the banner.
unique, right?
Hang the banner.
Well, they are hanging an artificial national championship banner.
Sure
Apparently some dude out there runs data and is crowning Oregon national champions. I'm like, okay, UCF. Let's move on. The other thing that it was just the home environments. I kind of mentioned that.
Amazing.
I would love to get more than that, but again, the problem is you're going to run into both sites want their money.
I don't care about the bowl sites.
I don't either. Like, I'm cool if you want to rotate the semifinals and Natty every year. Stop having some generic ass Mercedes-Benz location for the national championship and let it be the Rose Bowl. Let it be the Cotton Bowl. Let it be this. Get some more on-site games. I think the teams who get the buys earn that. They should get a home game.
I agree.
So then it gets into my dislikes, Ryan. I'm fine with 4 teams getting a bye in the current setup. However, I don't necessarily think it should be 100% guaranteed for the top conference title champs.
Yeah.
I think you should all get an auto bid, all 5. You still get the one. Boise State proved that they can hang the group of 5 in there. But you're not the lock for the top 4. You have to be in the top 4 to get the bye. And if you're a Big 12 champ and you have 3 losses, you're not getting a bye. You got to play your first game like everyone else does.
Yep.
That then also, I think, continues to keep your conference championship games potentially relevant. And the fact that it might be important that you win it and don't lose it, or that you don't go into that with 3 losses, like keeping your regular season relevant. I don't like that there's not reseeding. I would like reseeding round after round. Again, I know that gets hard because you look like you're questioning You have a question or like your face?
No, I'm just listening to what you're gonna finish saying here.
So I was just gonna say, I mean, be like the NFL. The one seed after the first round gets the lowest seed that won. Now this year it still would have been Ohio State, but in a year that let's say the 12 seed upsets the 5, then Oregon should be getting Clemson. I know that makes it really hard for travel. It doesn't make a clean bracket, like how people want to pick their brackets through and everything. But the other thing was game day fluctuation: Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc.
Oh yeah, I did not
Like
like that at all.
their biggest games feel like they should be in or around the weekend. If it's not going to be Saturday, it should be Friday. I get that the New Year's time frame was really good. The Notre Dame Georgia probably took a hit because it had to be moved to Thursday.
Yeah, at 4 p.m.
Yeah, and then the Thursday Friday games weren't huge hits. But again, you're battling the NFL, which makes it hard to go on the weekend because the NFL is king and they're going to have higher ratings than you. Even
And they
they're
will not move for you. They
Nope.
will not move for you.
They don't want to do it. And then my last piece of dislike is kind of the transfer portal window, and where
Oh,
some
sure.
players were almost forced into the portal. See Bo Prabula, didn't want to leave Penn State. Could have been a key cog in their run to potentially making a national championship, and he wasn't there for them to be able to use his mobility in dynamic packages. So if we could find a way to change that, I don't know how to do that because you also have to factor in school. Not that these kids care most of the time, and they figure it out anyways. But if we could figure that out, clean that up a little bit, I think that would help the playoff.
Well, and I think like the solution to that problem is ties into what we talked about. Like the season can't go that late. Like if you figure out a way to pull the playoff, like pull the season up, pull
End
the
it on New
playoff
Year's
up,
Day.
and get it to end at or around, or even if it ends where it did last year, where it's that last Monday or that first Monday of January or whatever, the 8th or 9th or whatever it ends up being. Like I think that's perfectly okay. Because then your season is over before the next semester starts. So you can still get guys who went through the entirety of the playoff into the portal. Your calendar's not as messed up. You're avoiding the NFL playoffs, so you can still have these games on a Saturday. Like, I think that addresses a lot of the issues that we had. Because I agree with, like, the Thursday, Friday night games were weird. I did not like that. The vibes for it was just off. It's not a natural football day. And people are like, why were the ratings so low for these games? It's like, well, first of all, you're on ESPN. You're not on network TV. I don't know why they didn't put that game on ABC. You got games on Thursday and Friday night when people are like getting their kids ready for school and stuff. It's like, oh shoot, there's a football game
And
on tonight.
adults have to
That's
go
right.
to work on Friday.
Adults got to go to work the next day, or you could just be like me and sleep 2 hours after a Notre Dame game and feel like ass the entire week. And it's just not the same as like the New Year's Day games where everyone's off. You got the Rose Bowl; everyone knows it's going to be on at this point. You know, everyone the Sugar Bowl is going to be on at this point. It's just it felt a little clunky this year, and I would prefer that they kind of change that going forward. I don't have the same issue with the not reseeding. I think how they do it is fine. It is what it is. It's the same thing. I get it. It's not March Madness, but it's the same thing in March Madness. If the other team wins,
And
then
again,
good for you.
if you change my first comment though, how your top 4 seeds pan out,
But that's
your
what I was
seeding
gonna,
you may not need to reseed.
right, and that was my next point. Is I completely agree with that. Like I think it should still the 5 highest ranked conference champions should get auto bids. I don't think it should be. I think that's one change that they should make, and it won't happen because it has to be unanimous, and there's no way the Big 12 or the ACC is going to say.
Well, they only got one more year this one anyways, and they're going to expand, so it won't
Yeah,
matter.
and
And
it's
then they're
gonna
going to
be
reshuffle
nonsense
everything in 14 and 16 teams in 2026, so they'll have new shit by then anyways because it's a new playoff. So
Yes, but I think doing just the top 4 teams get the buys, and then you seed throughout, or you rank throughout how the CFP rankings go. I think that would help at least. Maybe if we were talking about the first round blowouts being a problem, maybe that helps with that a little bit. Maybe you get less compelling matchups than in the quarterfinals because you're having lower ranked teams play the top 4 teams. Maybe those top 4 teams are blowing people out then. Who knows? One thing I also did not like is how confusing this playoff format was to casual observers, to the point that ESPN on every fucking broadcast had to mention the 12-team playoff, and this is how it works in every college game day about it, or the stupid preview. I actually didn't watch any of those preview shows, so I don't know, or the ranking shows, so I don't know if they did it. But like
It does not
every
flow nicely.
every conversation about it was, this is the 12-team playoff, this is how it works, this is how it works, and it was like explaining trigonometry to a 2-year-old. I didn't like that either. I thought that was. I also like the thing that I did not like is how playoff centric every conversation on ESPN had to become. So you're sitting there watching a midweek MAC game, and the announcers are talking about like the rankings between who should be higher, Georgia or Texas. It's like, I don't care. I'm not watching this game for that. I don't want to hear your thoughts on it. If I want to hear about thoughts on this, I will seek out a show that talks about this. I'm here to watch a football game. Talk about the damn football game that you're covering. I thought that was a little tiresome and tedious.
I didn't think you needed to beat it in the ground as much. The product sells itself. We don't need an everyday reminder on every single ESPN show, whether it be the NBA, the NFL Monday nights. Like, I don't need it shoved down my throat. We know what's happening. We know it's coming. Like, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
so
it was. You want to talk about playoff fatigue? That led to a lot of playoff fatigue for me, is having to hear about it for 14 weeks and then watch the playoff for the course of what felt like 3 months.
Yep.
It wasn't that long, but anyway, those were kind of my dislikes about it. And I mean, maybe nitpicking, maybe kind of mild griping, but whatever.
Yeah, I was happy with it, man. It did great. You talked about the championship. It was a wonderful finish to the season. The future, you're looking at expansion, guys. They're not going to stop at 12, even though I think 12 is a nice number.
Yeah, I don't want it to go anymore. I really don't want it to go. I think 12 is a really good number.
Yep. I think Ryan and I both agree. We'd love to see more on-site home games. And then,
honestly, man, I would love if they did on-site home games up until the final.
Yeah,
I think that'd be awesome.
Never going to happen.
It won't. But
corporate is not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to call a semifinal game at the Horseshoe, the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, right.
And then they take all the money. They're not going to do that. And then, future, moving the schedule up, end the season earlier, the portal signing periods change. Like, what happens with that? Especially if you're going to expand, because now you potentially make the season longer, depending how you orchestrate that.
Yep.
So, and how does that affect the regular season and the conference championship games? But overall, for me, I enjoyed the first 12 team. Obviously, I enjoyed it additionally because my team won the national championship, but I was enjoying the ride along the way. And it's extremely hard to go back to back. So I promise you, I will enjoy the ride next year of the 12-team playoff. Almost as much.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun to watch. A lot of compelling matchup storylines. And I mean, it's cool too, kind of watching the teams. You get a little bit more invested in the stories and the teams themselves too, right? Like short playoff run, it's like, okay, well, here's this, here's that, boop, now it's over. But you get this 4-round matchup for a team like Ohio State. It's like, okay, here's a team that came in just like on their deathbed. They responded. You have this guy in Jack Sawyer, who's like a Buckeye through and through, who was a 5-star player whose career really hasn't lived up to the billing, and he played the best football of his life for 4 weeks.
It's JT Tuimoloau, same thing.
And now he's going to be a legend in Columbus forever. He went from being just a good Ohio State player who was going to be a probably day 2 pick who has a 5 to 10 year NFL career to a Buckeye legend because of a playoff run. I think that like stories like that are cool.
Might have got himself into first round, early second round now. Him and JT both. So we'll see. Be interesting.
Anything else you wanted to touch on before we
no, just appreciate everybody for joining us for our first full college football season from spring to end of the actual season. I look forward to the month off, and hopefully you guys enjoy the 4 pre-recorded episodes we have for you. We will still be active on the socials. Tweet at us, Instagram us, YouTube us. I don't know. Talk to us. We're not going anywhere. We're just taking a live break.
A live break, yes. So to recap, as always, guys, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and subscribe to the YouTube page. We're at ITPCFB at all 3 of those. You'll catch some clips from these shows on the Instagram. You'll catch links to YouTube, to these podcasts over on the Twitter page. That's usually a good one-stop shop for all of our content. If you're listening to us in podcast form, reminder you can find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows. We're at Inside the Pylon, a Midwest College Football podcast. There, make sure you are subscribed. You're following the show so that way you can get notified as soon as these episodes drop. That'll be important over the next 4 weeks with just the scheduled delivery to you guys on Monday, probably Monday morning.
I think Mondays will be good.
And
And then I'll do my
then-
best once Ryan gets those up. I'll do my best to get it loaded into the YouTube on Monday for you guys to watch.
Yep, if you want to watch our faces during it. But yeah, as always, follow us on Twitter too. Like Clinton said, we will be active there over the next couple of weeks. Well, we'll be active there full time, but that'll maintain even with this brief live show hiatus over the next couple of weeks. We'll shoot out the links to the pre-recorded episodes as soon as they drop there as well. And then we'll be back live at some point late February, and we'll kind of let you know what we have cooked up for the spring at that
I
point.
would say,
So-
barring some catastrophic happening in college football that we would need to go live for.
Oh yeah, like if fucking Ryan Day or Marcus Freeman or James Franklin are like, peace out, we'll go to the NFL. Like
Yeah.
maybe then that's a quick.
That's a pretty notable 10-minute rapid reaction.
Yes. So we'll be around. Don't be a stranger. Hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear about in the spring. Yeah, that's all I got.
Keep it between the pylons, folks.
Bye everyone. We'll see you at some point in the near future. Okay.
There it is.
There it is. I
All
missed
right.
the button.
I has to pee-pee.
Okie dokie.
Well, Mr.